I hear a half step in the first interval. So that means that these two notes, the first two notes, can only be two places within our key. Can you tell me where within C minor these two notes could fit? Could it be C to D? No, because C to D is a whole step. Could it be C to D flat? No, because that would take us out of our key. So you just go up the 7 notes of our key, and you look for where that interval can be found. And this doesn't work just for half steps, this works for any interval. If you hear a major third, well, that instantly narrows down your melody's location, in this case to 3 places. So this is a good way to find where your melody fits within the key, is to listen to at least 1 or 2 intervals, and actually the more intervals in a row you can figure out, the more you can narrow down your location. And this is the technique that I used for a long time when I was starting with ear training, because you don't want to just have intervals floating in space. That's my term for when you have intervals and you know the intervals, but you don't know where they belong within the key. So you have to find a way to figure out where those intervals fit within the scale. And when I was starting ear training, a good way of doing that was listen to at least 1 or 2 or 3 intervals in a row, and then scan the notes of C minor scale and figure out where those intervals can't fit, and then the few places where they could fit. Often you'll be left with 2 locations. It's just how the key works. There's an interval pattern to the key. Often you end up with 2 places that an interval pattern could fit, but 2 places is still a lot better than having no idea. You then have a 50-50 chance of getting it right, and then there are additional techniques to actually narrow down which one is the correct location. So in this case, we hear a half step. First 2 notes are a half step, so that means it can only be 2 places in C minor scale, either D and E flat or G and A flat. So instantly we know it's one of these 2 places. Let's listen to the melody a bit more, see if we can figure out which one it is. Can anyone hear the root in this melody? Any of these notes sound like the root? It sounds like it ends on the root to me. It sounds very resolved. In fact, a lot of melodies will end on the root. There's this concept I've talked about with tension notes resolving to resolution notes. And in the long run, every note wants to make its way back to the root. It might not make it back in one leap, but in the long run, when you let these tension notes resolve, they tend to make their way back to the root. It's not the composer's goal to end on the root, it's just the way it naturally happens. So this melody ends on the root. This is C. And now that we know that it ends on the root, we can then backtrack and figure out what the starting note was. It was either a D or an E flat or a G and an A flat. So this is the end. C. Then the melody starts again. Did that sound like it was just up a note going to D and E flats? No, it sounded like a bigger leap. You guys have guessed it. That's right, it went up to the 5th and the melody starts on a G. That's the hard part done. We are now what I call locked in. We know where the melody is within the key. This is the point where transcribing becomes easy. We've unlocked the puzzle because now we know where the melody ends and starts. We know where it belongs within the key. Now we don't need to be super precise with our intervals anymore because we know what the notes are in C minor scale. We know that if it goes up a note, it's gone to the note above, or if it goes down a note, it's gone to the note below. We're not having to do the hard part of identifying intervals precisely. If we hear a third now, we don't even need to figure out if it's a major third or a minor third. We just know that a third, say above C in our key, is going to be E flat. So we don't have to even waste time figuring out if it's a minor third or a major third. Now, if you'd like to go more in depth into ear training, I'd like to invite you to sign up for my free video series on ear training. And in this series, I'll show you how my fixed key learning method works. So I'll show you how to line up songs in the same key so that you can spot the recurring shapes and chord progressions. And we'll look at interval recognition, and I'll show you the 6 priority intervals that you have to learn to play most songs by ear. So you can sign up for free at themusicalear.com or just click on the link in the description.